All right, so picture this. You're ready to buy a villa in Phuket. You've found the perfect place. You can practically feel the warm sand and the sunshine. But then, uh, you remember that mountain of paperwork?
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't really think about at first. The paperwork can be a bit of a hurdle, especially if you're not familiar with how things work in Phuket.
Yeah, which is why we're lucky to have you here today to break it all down. We're diving into this article all about how to speed up the villa buying process in Phuket.
Yeah, it's about making sure you've got all the info you need to navigate each step smoothly.
So before we get into the specifics, can you just remind us what the main stages of buying a villa in Phuket are?
Sure. So you start with the offer and acceptance stage, which can be a bit back and forth, especially if the market is really competitive. Then you move on to conveyancing, which is where the legal transfer of ownership happens. And finally, completion, which is the exciting part when you get the keys.
Okay. Conveyancing, that's the one that seems to stress people out the most. What exactly happens during that stage?
Well, that's where your solicitor really becomes your best friend. They'll be reviewing property titles, conducting searches, making sure the contract is solid, and basically protecting your interests every step of the way.
So it's like having a legal detective on your side, making sure everything is legitimate before you sign anything.
Exactly. Their expertise in local property law is absolutely crucial.
Now, I know everyone wants to fast forward to that paradise life,
Yeah.
but what are some common traps people fall into things that can really slow down the whole process?
One of the biggest mistakes is not understanding the local regulations. Phuket has its own specific property laws, and it's important to do your research.
It's like driving on the left side of the road. You got to know the rules of the game to avoid any accidents.
Another common pitfall is rushing the process. It's tempting to want everything done quickly, but taking the time to really scrutinize every document is essential.
Especially those contracts, right? They can be full of legal jargon and tricky fine print.
Exactly. Never underestimate the value of a good solicitor who can break it all down for you and explain anything that seems unclear.
Now, this article really emphasizes getting your finances in order early on. So when it comes to mortgages in Phuket, what are some things that might surprise buyers?
Well, one thing people might not realize is that the loan to value ratios here can be different from what they're used to in their home country.
Okay. Interesting.
Typically, banks in Phuket offer up to 70% for foreigners and sometimes even 80% if you have a strong financial profile.
So understanding the local lending practices is really important.
Absolutely. And researching lenders beforehand can make a big difference too. You'll want to look at both local banks and international options.
So it's like weighing the pros and cons of a local guide versus someone who's traveled the world. How should buyers approach that decision?
Well, I always recommend looking beyond just the interest rate. Consider things like fees, loan flexibility, and the level of customer service. It's about finding the right fit for your specific situation.
So once a buyer has their solicitor on board and their finances are in order, what's the next step in this villa adventure?
Well, communication is key. This might sound obvious, but staying in touch with everyone involved, your solicitor, the estate agent, the mortgage lender, can prevent a lot of headaches down the line.
I can imagine things could get pretty messy with so many people involved. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra where everyone needs to be playing in sync.
That's a great analogy. Regular check-ins, responding quickly to any issues, making sure everyone has updated contact info. These small things make a huge difference.
And what about leasehold properties? I know those can be a bit more complex. Does communication become even more crucial in those cases?
Absolutely. With leasehold properties, you need to be extra clear about the lease terms, things like the duration, the ground rent, any restrictions on what you can do with the property.
So you're not just buying the villa, you're also entering into this agreement with the freeholder. And clear communication helps make sure everyone's expectations are aligned.
Exactly. It helps prevent any surprises and makes the whole transaction smoother and more transparent.
Now, I'm really excited to talk about this next section, embracing the digital age. This is where things get really interesting.
Technology has really transformed the property buying process, especially in a place like Phuket, where many buyers are coming from overseas.
So instead of those mountains of paper, we now have digital solutions. What about e-signatures? Are those commonly used in Phuket?
Yes, absolutely. E-signatures are widely accepted here. They make signing contracts so much faster and more convenient. Platforms like DocuSign or Adobe Sign are quite popular.
So no more waiting for couriers or rushing to the post office.
Exactly. And it's not just e-signatures. Cloud storage has also been a game changer. It allows you to share documents securely and efficiently, keeps everything organized and accessible to everyone involved.
It's like having a virtual filing cabinet that you can access from anywhere.
Exactly. What other digital tools are being used to streamline the process? Well, property management software is becoming increasingly popular, especially for buyers who plan to rent out their villas.
So it helps manage those bookings and payments and maintenance requests.
Exactly. It makes managing your investment from afar so much easier. And for buyers who are still overseas, virtual tour options are now standard. You can get a real feel for the villa from the comfort of your own home before making any decisions.
Wow, technology has really revolutionized the whole experience for villa buyers in Phuket.
It really has. It's made the process faster, more transparent, and more accessible for buyers all over the world.
Okay, so we've talked about communication and digital tools. What else can buyers do to stay organized and on top of things during this whole process?
Having a detailed checklist of all the required documents is essential. Make sure it's tailored to your specific property and location. This helps you track your progress and avoid missing any crucial steps.
Like a roadmap for navigating that paperwork jungle.
Exactly. And setting deadlines, even for small tasks, helps keep things moving forward. It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Speaking of being proactive, how important are searches and surveys in this whole process?
They are absolutely crucial. Think of it like a health checkup for your future home. You want to identify any potential issues early on before they become deal breakers.
Like what kind of issues are we talking about?
While a building survey will highlight any structural problems or potential maintenance needs, things like that. A land survey will confirm the boundaries, any easements, any rights of way.
And then there are the local authority searches to make sure everything is in line with planning permissions, building regulations, any restrictions that might affect the property.
It's like doing a background check on your future home. And remember, these searches can sometimes take time, so starting them early can really help avoid delays later on.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit.
Mhm.
You've found the villa, everything checks out, finances are in place. How do you make sure that closing stage goes smoothly without any unnecessary delays?
Preparation is key. Make sure you have all your documents organized and ready to go. Be responsive to any requests from your solicitor or the seller's side. Check the paperwork thoroughly and quickly and address any discrepancies immediately.
It sounds like a well-coordinated dance where everyone needs to be in sync.
Exactly, especially when it comes to the exchange of contracts. Clear deadlines, regular follow-ups, and quick action when issues arise, all of these things contribute to a seamless closing.
Now let's talk about those unique situations that can sometimes come up during the buying process. Not every villa purchase is completely straightforward, is it?
That's true. Some properties come with unique challenges that require a bit more attention, especially when it comes to the legal aspects.
Like what kind of challenges?
Well, leasehold properties, as we mentioned before, can be a bit tricky. It's really important to scrutinize those lease terms carefully.
Okay, so let's say I'm interested in a leasehold property. What are some specific questions I should be asking?
The first thing is how many years are left on the lease. A shorter lease can impact the property's value and your financing options. Then you'll want to know what the ground rent is. Is it fixed or can it increase? Are there any restrictions on renovations or subletting the property?
So it's not just about owning the building, it's about understanding all those terms and limitations that come with the lease agreement.
Exactly. And if any of those terms seem unclear or unfavorable, don't hesitate to negotiate or even walk away from the deal.
Good advice. What about renovations? Many buyers have these grand plans for transforming their villas, but I imagine there are some regulations to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Renovation approvals are essential for any significant structural changes. Whether you're adding an extension, building a pool, or even just altering the facade, you need to get the necessary permissions from the local authorities.
So no impromptu swimming pool construction.
Not without the proper permits. And understanding local zoning laws is crucial. These regulations dictate how land can be used and what type of development is allowed.
So you can't buy a villa in a residential zone and suddenly turn it into a commercial space.
Exactly. Zoning laws are there to maintain the character of the area and prevent conflicts between different land uses.
So it seems like there's a lot to consider, but it's all about protecting your investment and making sure your villa dreams align with the local rules.
Precisely. And that's where having the right team of experts comes in.
Right, it's not a solo mission.
Exactly. Choosing the right estate agent, an experienced solicitor, and a financial advisor who understands the Phuket market can make all the difference.
So let's break down each role. What should buyers look for in an estate agent?
You want someone with extensive experience in the Phuket market, a good track record, and strong negotiation skills. They should be able to guide you toward properties that fit your needs and budget and help you navigate that offer and acceptance process effectively.
So it's about finding someone who really understands the local market nuances and can advocate for you during those negotiations.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to solicitors, expertise in property law is crucial. Look for someone who's SRA approved, familiar with Fouquet's regulations, and ideally has some positive client feedback.
It's like finding a legal superhero who can fight for your rights and make sure everything is above board.
That's a great analogy. And finally, a financial advisor can be invaluable in navigating all the financial aspects of the purchase, especially for foreign buyers.
So it's about more than just securing a mortgage.
Right. A good advisor will help you understand your budget, explore different mortgage options, navigate any currency exchange issues, and even plan for those long-term financial implications of owning a villa in Phuket.
Like having a financial strategist on your team to make sure your investment is sound and aligns with your goals.
Exactly. Having that team of experts along with your own preparation and proactive communication can make the entire process so much smoother and less stressful.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered a lot of ground from understanding those initial stages of the buying process to navigating those potential pitfalls and assembling your dream team.
And we've explored how technology is changing the landscape and the importance of being prepared for those unique challenges that can pop up along the way.
But before we move on, I want to touch on one crucial stage that I think often causes the most anxiety: conveyancing.
Ah, yes. The legal heart of the transaction.
It can seem like the most daunting and paperwork-heavy part, but it doesn't have to be right.
Absolutely not. And that's exactly what we'll be diving into next. How to streamline this stage from conducting efficient searches to using those digital tools to ultimately ensure a stress-free transition into becoming a proud villa owner in Phuket.
All right, so let's get back to this villa buying journey and really focus on that conveyancing stage.
Yeah, it's where things get serious on the legal side.
And I think it's the part that a lot of buyers find the most mysterious. So what can people do up front to make conveyancing go as smoothly as possible?
Well, one of the biggest things you can do to save time is to have all your documents ready to go from the start. Things like your passport, proof of address, financial statements. The more organized you are up front, the smoother everything will flow.
It's like packing your suitcase before a trip.
Right.
Makes the journey a lot less stressful.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about having those documents. It's about making sure they're accurate and up to date. Any little discrepancies can cause delays.
We talked about searches and surveys before. How do those fit into this whole conveyancing process?
Well, they're like those essential checks and balances. Starting them early on can prevent some major headaches later down the line.
So let's say those searches uncover something unexpected, like a boundary dispute or an issue with the building permits. What happens then?
That's where your solicitor really proves their worth. They'll advise you on the best way to handle it, whether that's renegotiating the terms of the sale, asking for further investigation, or even walking away if the risks are too high.
So it's all about having that expert in your corner who can navigate those tricky situations.
Absolutely. And that's why choosing a solicitor who really knows who case-specific regulations is so important.
We touched on this digital revolution in property buying earlier. How is technology being used to streamline conveyancing specifically?
One of the biggest changes has been the move towards these electronic document management systems. They allow for secure storage, easy sharing, and you can track all the important documents easily. This really reduces the reliance on paper and speeds everything up.
So no more overflowing filing cabinets.
Pretty much. Everything's digital, accessible from anywhere. And with e-signatures, signing documents is almost instantaneous.
Now what about automation? Is that playing a role in conveyancing too?
Absolutely. Automation is being used to handle all those repetitive tasks like filling out forms, data entry, and even generating basic documents. This frees up solicitors to focus on the more complicated legal stuff.
It's like having a virtual assistant making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes.
Exactly. And it really helps to cut down on those human errors.
Now I know, even with all the best preparation and digital tools, there can still be unexpected delays, right?
That's true. Property transactions can be a bit unpredictable, especially in a place like Phuket.
So how can buyers prepare themselves mentally for those potential hiccups?
I think the key is to be flexible. Going into it knowing that things might not always go exactly according to plan helps manage those expectations.
So it's like packing an extra dose of patience along with your swimsuit.
Exactly. And remember, most delays can be resolved.
What are some of those common causes of delays, and how can buyers be proactive in dealing with them?
Well, one common issue is incomplete or inaccurate documentation. Double-checking everything and being quick to respond to requests for information can really prevent unnecessary holdups.
So being organized and communicative can really speed things up.
Absolutely. Another potential delay can come from unexpected issues that pop up during those searches or surveys.
So let's say a survey finds a structural problem that wasn't obvious at first. What happens then?
Your solicitor will guide you on the best course of action. It might mean renegotiating the price, asking for repairs, or if it's a really serious problem, walking away from the deal.
It sounds like it's important to understand your options and be prepared to make those tough decisions.
Exactly. And that's where having that open communication with your solicitor is so important. They'll help you through those tricky situations.
Okay, so we've talked about being prepared, being flexible, and being proactive. Anything else buyers can do to stay sane during this process?
Don't underestimate the power of staying positive. It's easy to get caught up in the stress, but remembering that end goal, owning that dream villa in Phuket, can really help you stay focused.
It's like visualizing yourself relaxing on your villa's patio with a cocktail in hand overlooking the ocean. That image can get you through a lot of paperwork.
Exactly. Focus on those positive aspects and trust that your team of experts is working hard to make everything go as smoothly as possible.
Let's shift gears a bit now and talk about another important piece of this puzzle: financing.
Yeah, financing is often that deciding factor for buyers, especially when you're buying property abroad.
It can be a tricky landscape to navigate.
Mm.
So let's break it down. What are the usual financing options for foreign buyers in Phuket?
The most common way is to get a mortgage from a bank, either a local one or an international one.
We talked about the differences between those earlier. What are some other things to consider when comparing those mortgage options?
Well, the interest rates are obviously a big factor,
Yeah.
but you also want to look at the fees, the loan terms, and the eligibility requirements. Some lenders might have specific criteria for foreign buyers.
So it's about reading the fine print carefully and comparing all those details.
Exactly. And it's definitely worth exploring different options because the terms can vary quite a bit.
Now, I know getting pre-approved for a mortgage is often recommended. Why is that so important in the Phuket market?
Well, getting pre-approved shows sellers that you're serious and that you can actually afford the property. It gives you a real advantage, especially if it's a competitive market.
So it's like having that financial seal of approval.
Exactly. It puts you in a stronger position for negotiating and can help you secure the property you really want.
What about currency exchange? That's something a lot of foreign buyers worry about.
Yeah, fluctuations in currency can impact the total cost of your purchase, so it's really important to plan for that.
Are there any strategies to help minimize those risks?
One option is to lock in an exchange rate when you sign the purchase agreement. That way you know the price won't change because of those currency swings.
So it's like fixing the price in your home currency.
Exactly. Another strategy is to use a forward contract. This lets you lock in a rate for a future date, which is helpful if you know exactly when you need to transfer the funds.
So it's all about being proactive and strategic with that currency exchange.
Absolutely. And for those who aren't really familiar with the ins and outs of foreign exchange, working with a currency specialist can be super helpful. They can guide you through the different options and help you minimize those potential risks.
Okay, so let's say you've got your financing sorted, you're moving through that conveyancing process. What about budgeting for those ongoing costs of owning a villa?
That's a really important step that I think a lot of buyers overlook. It's not just about the purchase price. It's about understanding all those recurring expenses that come with owning a property.
What are some of the main costs people should factor in?
Property taxes are a big expense in Phuket, and the rates can vary depending on the location and how much your property is worth.
It's like paying your dues for living in paradise.
Exactly. Then there are the maintenance costs. Keeping your villa in top shape means regular cleaning, gardening, and occasional repairs.
And those costs can go up and down depending on the size and the age of the property, right?
Absolutely. Older properties might need more upkeep, and obviously a bigger villa will have higher costs.
And then there are those utilities: electricity, water, internet, all those monthly bills that keep your tropical haven running.
And if you've got a pool or a garden, you need to factor in those maintenance costs too.
Okay, so we've got taxes, maintenance, utilities, anything else?
If your villa is part of a managed estate or a complex, there will probably be service charges to cover the shared areas and facilities.
It's like a membership fee for your villa community.
Exactly. And don't forget about insurance. It's crucial to protect your investment in case of damage, theft, or any other unexpected events.
Like having that financial safety net.
Absolutely. And finally, if you're thinking about renting out your villa, make sure you factor in those costs too. Things like property management fees and marketing expenses can add up.
It's like running a little business alongside your tropical getaway.
Exactly. By thinking carefully about all these ongoing costs, you can avoid any financial surprises and make sure that owning your villa in Phuket stays a dream and doesn't become a burden.
This has been incredibly helpful. We've covered so much from financing and conveyancing to those ongoing costs and potential pitfalls.
We've talked about strategies for streamlining the process, making the most of technology, and most importantly, staying positive throughout the whole journey.
But even after all this, I think some buyers might still feel a bit overwhelmed by the idea of buying a villa abroad.
It's understandable. It's a big decision, and there are a lot of moving pieces.
So how can people overcome those anxieties and approach this process with confidence? That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. All right, so we've really gone through it all, haven't we? Every step of buying a villa in Phuket.
Yeah, from those legal details and financing strategies to all those little things that can trip you up.
And it's a lot to take in. I can imagine some people might be feeling a little bit hesitant, maybe even overwhelmed.
That's totally normal. Buying property in another country, especially somewhere as unique as Phuket, it can feel like a big leap.
So how can buyers feel more confident about this? How can they approach the whole process with excitement instead of anxiety?
Well, I think one of the best ways to feel confident is to just know what you're doing. The more you understand about the process, the less scary it becomes.
It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you can see where you're going.
Exactly. We've talked about doing your research, but I really can't emphasize that enough. Get to know the property market in Phuket, look at different areas, understand those legal rules, and really dive into those financing options.
So it's about giving yourself the information you need to make those smart decisions along the way.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for advice from people who have already done this. Talk to other villa owners in Phuket, connect with expats who have gone through the buying process. Join those online forums and social media groups.
It's like having a network of experienced travelers who can share their tips and insights, maybe even some warnings about things to avoid.
Exactly. Learning from other people's experiences can be so valuable, and it can help you steer clear of those common mistakes.
We talked before about putting together that dream team of experts. How does that help buyers feel more confident?
Having that trusted estate agent, a really skilled solicitor, and a financial advisor who knows the Phuket market, it can make a world of difference.
It's like having a team of guides helping you navigate through uncharted territory.
Exactly. They bring their expertise, their local knowledge, and their negotiation skills to the table. They're there to look out for your best interests and make sure you're protected every step of the way.
So it's about letting go of some of those tasks that might feel overwhelming, knowing that you've got professionals handling those trickier parts.
Exactly. And it's not just about their practical skills, it's also about that emotional support. Having someone to answer your questions, calm your worries, and just be there to reassure you when you're feeling unsure can really take the edge off.
Like having a calming presence beside you, a voice of reason when everything feels a bit chaotic.
Absolutely. And remember, building confidence is a journey. It's about taking things one step at a time, celebrating those little wins, and trusting your gut feeling.
It's about knowing you don't need to have every answer right away. It's okay to learn as you go, and asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Exactly. And as you move through this process, doing your research, connecting with others, working with your team of experts, that confidence will start to grow.
It's like climbing a mountain. Each step gets you closer to the top, and with each step, the view gets clearer, and you feel that sense of accomplishment.
I love that analogy. And when you reach the top, when you finally step into your dream villa in Phuket, all that hard work will pay off.
Now I want to talk about something we haven't really touched on yet, the emotional side of buying a villa in Phuket. It's more than just a financial decision, right?
Oh, definitely. It's an emotional investment, too. You're not just buying a property, you're buying a lifestyle, a dream, a little piece of paradise.
It's about creating a space for memories, for relaxing, for adventures, for connecting with loved ones.
Exactly. And it's important to acknowledge those feelings throughout the process.
So how can buyers manage those emotions so they don't get in the way or cloud their judgment?
I think staying focused on your why is key. Why are you buying this villa? What are your dreams for this space?
It's like reminding yourself of that bigger picture, the vision that's driving you forward.
Exactly. And if you start feeling stressed, take a step back, reconnect with that vision, and let it guide you.
We talked about visualization earlier. How can buyers use that technique to help with those emotions?
Visualization is so powerful. Close your eyes, imagine yourself in your villa, surrounded by all the beauty of Phuket, feeling those moments of joy and peace.
It's like creating a little mental escape, a place to go when things get tough.
Exactly. And by tapping into those positive feelings, you can balance out that stress and stay focused on that ultimate reward.
This has been amazing. We've covered the practical side, the legal stuff, the financial strategies, and now the emotional part of this journey.
It's about looking at it from all angles with a mix of knowledge, preparation, and a bit of heart.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Yes, a little something to take with them on their villa buying adventure.
Remember buying a villa in Phuket. It's not just a transaction. It's a chance to create a whole chapter full of sunshine, adventure, and unforgettable moments.
It's about embracing a new way of life, immersing yourself in a vibrant culture, and writing your own unique story.
And while the journey might have some bumps along the way, some moments of doubt and uncertainty, the reward at the end is worth every bit of effort.
So take that leap of faith, embrace the challenge, and trust the process. Your dream villa in Phuket is out there waiting for you.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of buying a villa in Phuket. Until next time, happy house hunting.
And may your journey be filled with sunshine and smooth sailing.